Hi, I'm Jenny Lauren Dowden for Conduit News. As many of you know, the primary races are happening right now. Election day is March 3rd, and state legislative races are not going to be the only thing on your ballot. Joining us today is Kristin Pawlik. She is running for circuit judge here in Washington and Madison County. Hi there.
Hey, how are you, Jenny? Thank you for
I'm
having me.
good. Yes, thank you for joining us. I know that there will be a lot of people that will want to hear about you and your race and why you chose to run for judge. So if you would just tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience.
Okay, well, Jenny Lauren, I have a practice in Northwest Arkansas. We have law offices in Fayetteville and in downtown Rogers, and I've been an attorney since 1999. I am born and raised Northwest Arkansas. I've never lived anywhere else, never wanted to. I'm married to Aaron Holmes, and we have three children, three boys, which is probably the brightest part of my life and day. And you know that as a mom. Um,
Mhm.
it's been really a privilege to be a mom and have a career at the same time and be able to do the exact kind of work that I want to do, which is helping people solve sort of the big problems of life. And that's how I view my profession as a lawyer. I'm in a helping profession. Um, so yeah, that's about me.
Is that why you decided to go into law? Just that inclination and desire to help people? You really do advocate in so many ways.
Yeah, in college, I was a journalism major. I was kind of interested in getting to the bottom of things, and I very much enjoyed that. I love writing. I have some family members that were in the newspaper business, and so I always thought, well, maybe that was something that I wanted to do.
Mhm.
My father was a small town lawyer, and so I saw in the way that he and we lived those relationships that you form with people in your community. And sometimes you're trading work for a carton of eggs, or some work on your back deck. And I really liked that sense of community and the way that he helped people on a day-to-day basis. So when I figured out how, unfortunately, journalists don't they don't really make a lot of money, I kind of did the math and I thought, okay, this might not work for me. And
Yeah.
law school was something that was very interesting to me, and I did love the idea that I could make a career out of writing and speaking for other people, just kind of being
Yeah.
on the other side, providing the answers rather than seeking the answers, maybe.
Yeah, I like that. So you've had your private practice for a number of years. What type of cases do you deal with there? And then, of course, what type of cases that do you take before the judge to try?
Yeah, so since 2003, I've been in private practice, and I describe my practice sort of as like a crisis management practice, because I do a lot of high conflict domestic relations and custody cases, divorces, things where people are really experiencing a lot of trauma and conflict. I also do criminal defense work, which that comes out of when I was a baby lawyer, I worked as the public defender in Benton County. I was the chief deputy public defender. And of course, that gives you just an immeasurable amount of experience trying cases. And
Yeah.
while I was there, I handled some really terrible crimes. I represented people who had committed sexual crimes, crimes against
Mhm.
children, murder, just really serious offenses. And it taught me a lot about looking for the humanity in people, even when they've done some really terrible things. And I still do find a lot of value in that work. I take
Mhm.
some conflict cases from the Public Defender Commission from time to time, because I see that as a public service, being
Yeah.
there to make sure that our system works, that everyone, the prosecutor has their job to do, the public defenders have their job to do. And if everybody does a very good job, then we will reach justice in the end, or at least that's what I believe. The third part of my practice is a civil practice. So I represent folks in employment discrimination suits, usually people, not companies, if they have experienced some sort of um, uh, wrongful termination or
Mhm.
discrimination in the employment, pregnancy discrimination, and things like that. For the most part, my practice is representing people and small businesses. And, I feel like that's the way that I can find the most satisfaction and value in helping my community. And of
Yeah.
course, those cases mean I'm in the courtroom all the time. all the time. Every week I'm in court, which I very much enjoy. That's where, that's where the action happens.
Yeah.
Decisions get made, for better or for worse, and you have to be ready to bring your A game. And
Mm.
I love advocating for my clients, taking their positions, making sure that their voices are heard and heard clearly, in the court.
So one would then, wonder or ask, like, you have this amazing thriving practice. You work on a variety of different cases. Probably no day is ever the same. So what do you tell people when they say, okay, well, why do you want to be a judge? And how does that affect your practice? So should you be then on the bench?
Yeah, that is a fair and tough question because I did not enter the year 2025 thinking that I was going to run for judge.
Yeah.
In the summer of 2025, I just finished my term as the elected president of the Arkansas Bar Association, which meant that I'd spent the previous year traveling the state, visiting with judges and lawyers and other stakeholders about, what litigants in our communities need, what does the rule of law mean in our state,
Hmm.
and how do we support the court system. And I was ready to just return to my practice because I do love it.
Yeah.
Um, but the judge in the division that I'm running for announced that he was retiring. And he's a very, in my estimation and opinion, a very good judge, the kind of judge that lawyers aspire to be. And to me, that means fairness,
Hmm.
treating people with dignity, efficiency, sternness when necessary, kindness when it's warranted. And the idea of losing the ability to try cases in front of that judge really hurt me for my clients. Like I was just thinking, there's going to be a gap there. We've
Yeah.
lost, we've lost a forum in losing this judge. We're going to lose something big.
Mm.
And I thought, who could replace him? And that was tough because I then started to look inward, and I'm 50 years old and I've been doing this, a licensed attorney, since 1999. And it occurred to me that it's probably time for me to step up and be that judge that I want for my clients. And I do think that I'm the only candidate in my race who does have the trial experience, the life experience, the experience in committing to my community and to public service, that is the necessary combination to be the kind of judge that the people of Washington and Madison County deserve.
Yeah. Whenever you are traveling across Washington and Madison County, which I'm it's like every day, I can't imagine what it's like for y'all. Every day you're at a new event. It's a lot to campaign, but as you're meeting new people and visiting different groups, is there a common thread or a common topic that you hear from voters?
Well, the traveling and the meeting people has been the most amazing part of the campaign
Yeah.
because it's interesting. I tell people it's like I've met so many hundreds of new people, but
Uh-huh.
it feels like our community has become smaller just
Hmm.
because, it just feels like the realm of influence and the realm of connections that I have is just it's just so much tighter. And I've really
Yeah.
enjoyed that. But what
Yeah.
I do hear from voters is they want to know that when they walk in the courtroom, they're going to be heard and treated fairly, not based on what their last name is or if they are known for voting in one election or another, or voting a certain way. Are they red? Are they blue? Are they purple? That they're just going to be able to present their facts to the judge, and the judge is going to hear them and listen
Yeah.
and consider those facts and apply the law as it's written. And those are things that I believe in too. I believe that as a trial judge, my job is to hear the facts and judge the credibility of the witnesses, and then apply those things to the law that the legislators have written for us and rule based on that.
Yeah, it's something that you mentioned, seeing, how one person voted in an election or another, rightly or wrongly, even though these judicial races are nonpartisan, um, a lot of people, try to distinguish, okay, well, who do I think is the,
Mhm.
Republican here in this race? Who do I think is the Democrat? And then, oftentimes they will overlook experience and things like that and just go with, the letter that they know. What are your thoughts on that? And, um, how do you overcome? Because I've seen even on Facebook, people will try to press judicial candidates for their political views. And it's like, that's not what this is about. So, how do you strike that balance of, answering these questions that voters have, but then also, we are the ones meant to be nonpartisan.
Mhm.
And like you said, strictly apply the law.
Well, I do think voters are looking for any information that helps them connect with a candidate to to maybe have an understanding of what that candidate's values are
Hmm.
and to find the candidate that aligns with their values. And so those are fair questions. And you can learn a lot about me just by looking at what I've done in the last 25 years of my career and out in the community that will tell you kind of where my values are.
Hmm.
Can speak to that. I am, I'm a firm believer in that judicial races should stay nonpartisan because I want everyone to feel like they're going to be treated fairly and
Hmm.
believe that they're going to be treated fairly based on the merits of their case and nothing else. So I have advocated for this system and now I've chosen to run in it. And that means I give up my right to say some of the things I might think and believe because I'm running for a job that requires that I don't do that, that I keep my mouth shut on that. And that's
Yeah.
okay. I knew what I was
Yeah.
getting into. But for me, following the law as it's written, not trying to create new law, that's not the
Mhm.
role of a trial judge. And really, really working and living in that courtroom as the Constitution would have me do. Like there are rules. There's a roadmap there for you as a trial judge. You
Yeah.
don't have to make it up on your own. And so I want people to know that
Yeah.
I'm a rule follower and I have worked and lived and tried cases within those rules since 1999 and I will continue to do that as your judge. But I like having conversations with people just about me as a
Yeah.
person, where I spend my time and the things that are important to me, where we go to church and how I raise my children. And I think that tells people a lot about me as a
Mhm.
candidate, maybe more than what my partisan alignment might be or might have been or might be tomorrow.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know that you are so plugged in the community and you love to advocate and help others. Apart from, you mentioned the bar association, what other organizations or, what do you enjoy doing around the community?
Well, so locally, I'm very supportive. I try to be very supportive of our CACs, our Children's Advocacy Centers.
Mm.
For those who don't know, those are the centers that offer resources, support to victims of child abuse or domestic violence, and also to law enforcement who are investigating those crimes.
Mm.
Um, I was appointed years ago, I was appointed by the governor to serve on the Commission for Child Abuse, Rape, and Domestic Violence in Arkansas, which administers grant funds to the CACs, also to
Okay.
domestic violence shelters, rape crisis centers, et cetera. And, doing that work, I learned how important it is for our citizens to have those CACs within a drivable distance
Mhm.
so that if the worst happens, the
Yeah.
children and the families have those resources and law enforcement has good data, good evidence
Mhm.
that they can use to make sure that justice is done in those cases. So I really love connecting with both the Children's Advocacy Center and the Children and Family Advocacy Center in Benton County and trying to make sure that they have support and the community knows their needs.
Yeah.
Um, there's really, I really enjoy spending time with other people that find issues that affect the family and also access to justice important. So I serve on the Access to Justice Foundation, which um, we determine and administer grants to legal aid services who offer civil legal aid, not criminal, but
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
legal aid services to people like veterans, disabled veterans, victims of domestic violence, people who are having housing issues, those kind of folks. We make sure that they have access to the courthouse and access to legal services. And then I usually attend the Project for Victims of Family Violence, which is now Peace at Home. I've supported that shelter for years, and my church and my kids' school, of course. Always, as a mom, that takes up a lot of your time,
So
resources.
it's three boys, and right, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've got some basketball stars in the family. Have I seen
Well,
that?
from time to time, they can definitely project some star quality. But yes, I've got three boys. They've all been active in every sport, it seems like, and my
Yeah,
husband has coached them in every youth sport. I mean, basketball,
awesome.
baseball, flag football, and now they're
Mhm.
all now two of them play high school basketball, and one of them is at the University of Arkansas.
Oh, that's
So.
great. That's
You,
great.
that's how we spend our free time is, sports or outside.
Yeah, those sound really good to me. As I mentioned earlier, so early voting will begin um, February 17th, and election day is March 3rd. What are you telling people regarding voting to get in touch with your campaign, or if they like to get involved, or help in any way? And then also, before you go, I just want you to. There are three people that are running for this particular seat. I want you to. Um, just explain to our viewers why, out of those three candidates, you're the right choice for them.
Yeah. Well, so early voting, February 17th. If you're not registered to vote, the last day to register is February 2nd. And with the weather coming, the sooner the better. Get
Yeah,
out there and register. Also, if you've got college age kids, of course, you may need to seek an absentee ballot for them. So that's not the
that's good.
simplest process. So get down to the clerk's office, get your absentee ballot for your kiddos. Um, the This is an election that's falling at a weird time. There's not a
Mhm.
presidential race on the ballot, so voter turnout is going to be key. And just because there's not a presidential election doesn't mean there aren't important issues. I mean, we have
Mhm.
some really important and crucial local races in addition to the judicial race, which I think the
Yeah,
judicial races are very important. I mean,
yeah,
you may not, as a voter, you may not think about how a judicial race would impact your life until you have a controversy and you end up in a courtroom and you
yeah,
understand. Um, as far as distinguishing myself from the other two people in the race, I would say this, we're all lawyers. That is a qualification to be a trial judge, a circuit judge. Um, what sets me apart is that I have been actively trying cases and in court with my clients since 1999. That is all I have done. I am a lawyer who gets in there and stands beside my clients and advocates for them. And that's important. If you are seeking to take the judge position to run a courtroom, you need to know how
mhm,
your decisions impact the people that come before you.
yeah,
Justice has to be real. It is these decisions affect people's family. They affect their livelihood. They affect their children and their freedom. And so having that experience it can't be duplicated in any other way. And I've got that experience. I try cases right now in the courtroom in which I'm running to be judge. So that's my office. Um, the other things that I think set me apart are that I have been committed to my community and to community service for my entire career. And so you don't have to, a voter who's curious doesn't have to just listen to this interview and hear me speak and take my word for it. You can take my word for it, but you can also look me up. You can go on any of the social media sites or on the internet, and you can see what I've done and where I've been, and that indeed I have been giving back to my community and committed to the people of Northwest Arkansas since 1999. And then the third thing I think that sets me apart is that others have recognized my integrity and my ability to serve, in that, like I mentioned, I was appointed by not just one, but two governors of different political parties to serve on the Arkansas Commission for Child Abuse, Rape, and Domestic Violence. And I served as chair under a Republican governor. I was appointed by a Republican governor to serve as Special Associate Justice to the Arkansas Supreme Court, the highest court in our land. And so, leadership in each party of our state has recognized that I am a person of integrity and that I will serve and serve well. If a voter wants to learn more about me, they can go to my website, which is kristinforjudge.com. I also have a Facebook page for the campaign, and then my personal Facebook page, I've been posting a lot of public comments and things on there, or public posts and pictures and things that I'm doing out in the community. My firm is Miller Butler, and we have a website, so you can see information there, or you can just Google me. There's a lot of information out there about me because I've lived my life in a way that I believe is true and with integrity. And so voters will have a lot of information if they want to learn about me. If you want to see what I've done in the courtroom, the state of Arkansas has a public court filing system. It's called Court Connect, and you can look me up and you can see the hundreds of cases that I've represented people, their friends and neighbors in court in Madison and Washington County. And by the way, I'm the only candidate in this race that has represented clients in both Washington and Madison County in the last 5 years. I think that should be a qualification for running for judge.
Voters, that's significant. That's interesting.
I think that voters might consider that significant. I hope they do.
Yeah.
It's important to me that I have helped people in both counties, and I have had cases in both courts. If you compare my record and the number of cases that I've tried to the other two folks in this race, it's just there is just no comparison. And my years as a public defender will add hundreds of cases to the tally that's on Court Connect. So, I've got the most experience, but I have the right kind of experience for this job. And I hope voters will consider me in this election. I am running because I believe I am the right candidate for this job, not because I need a job. I, like you pointed out, I do love my firm very much, and I've been partners with these folks in my law firm since 2003. I will have to close my law practice if I'm elected, and that's a tough decision because some of my clients I've represented for more than 10 years.
Wow.
But the people of Madison and Washington counties, they deserve a judge who understands how decisions impact them and who understands that justice is real. And I'm that person. I'm that candidate.
Well, Kristin, thank you so much for coming on Conduit. It's been really interesting hearing your experience and your race for this position. We wish you all the best March 3rd.
Thank you, Jenny Lauren. I appreciate the opportunity as always. So thank you.